um, that what we said we offered, we would be offering, and just keep looking for ways we could improve and have absolute integrity. And so that's been absolutely thrilling to me that these guys really want to go for it. And when I came on when I came on board, we had just been accepted as a project of community partners, so we didn't have to put all our energy into paperwork and legal aspects and accounting. That under the umbrella of community partners, we would have a lot of our infrastructure in place and could move forward with our mission, further developing our curriculum, and being absolutely compliant with their assistance. So donations are tax deductible, and we've blasted off. Very exciting to me.
Here it is.
And so basically what Operation Mindful Warrior does
the one that came out today.
Hold, Gail, excuse me 1 second. Can we have a reminder to mute your phones, please? We're hearing somebody else's conversation.
Oh.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Gail, back to you.
Okay. So at this point, Operation Mindful Warrior does not have a facility, does not have a physical base. That's something we're looking towards having. But we're kind of a mobile unit right now. That means we're able to take these, the courses and the introductions and the assistance to the veterans and the veteran service providers and the families where they are. And we have this fabulous range of once a month we do an open introductory presentation at the Brentwood Presbyterian Church in Brentwood, and once a month we're on Skid Row at VOA Housing, which I found fascinating and a lot of other people have, because also we're everywhere in between, but we're kind of in one of the classiest neighborhoods and one of the least desirable neighborhoods for people to live in, and it's working beautifully in both locations. We're bridging a gap also between a veteran's experience and that of the community, so people understand. So it's neither that people are tuning out the veterans, like that's an experience I have never had in my life and maybe don't want to look at, or just seeing headlines and I'm kind of scared. You know, the veteran suicide rate is really high, and I don't know that I want to be hiring veterans or interacting with veterans, and picking time bomb to really facilitate communication and understanding and the common ground between the veterans who are in the community and the community members who have never served. So the introductions that we have been, I've been so impressed. I went kind of undercover to my first one and was really delighted. The honesty. Usually it's the 4 founders who speak, each tell a bit of their story and the role of mindfulness in their lives, and then just start making connections, opening up to questions, actually training, doing mindfulness training so people get a sample of it. And the events have been beautiful. And so to take that to a lot of places right now is what we're doing. I just want to bring Operation Mindful Warrior onto people's radar. I had never heard about it, and I felt I was pretty well versed in what was available. Very few other people I've spoken with have heard about it, and to provide the safety net. Yes, we have a clinician on board. Yes, he's been very kindly treating veterans when they're unable to pay. I don't think he can continue that too long. But he has seen, Dr. Berardino has seen, working at the VA, working at New Directions, working at a lot of places, that there's still so much more to do, and veterans are slipping through the cracks. And there's an immediate effect of this. People don't have to wait months for an appointment or, just showing up once a month. There's an immediate effect of being guided through how you can find some self-care within yourself. And how empowering that is very, very touching. That someone is not made dependent on medications or on a clinician, but finding the resources within themselves to really start moving towards a healthier life. Even if it's already healthy, it can be improved. And so not in any way to diminish the power of medications, clinicians, services that are available. It's sort of like water. It filters in between whatever else is in the container and really supports a person in their day-to-day life. And I've watched it happen even in the course of an introductory presentation. And the veterans, especially on Skid Row, keep saying, can't you come back more often? So I'm looking for funding to start supporting our programs more. We really want to keep them free for veterans and basically start charging when we train the service providers. We've had a number of requests to work with the veterans at an organization and also train the people who work with them in different capacities. Because to create, I guess I call it a new language for veterans, just a way of seeing themselves and their lives and honoring the abilities and skills they have within themselves. Once that's in place, it's really desirable to have the people who are working with them in other capacities through whatever agency speaking that same language and also giving themselves the same self-care. Because with most nonprofits and even agencies where the people are paid, there's a burnout rate. There are people taking on the challenges and burdens of the people they work with. I think that's the nature of caregivers, whatever type. And so that they're implementing the same self-care and support. I feel like the people, we work from both ends, and the people meet in the middle at a beautiful common ground. So we're moving in that direction. We're very happy to go out and do presentations to service organizations, to agencies, even to groups of clinicians who just want to get together and host something. And I've introduced the guys to tabling at events. They thought, oh, no, we have a woman on board, and she's talking about tablecloths already, girly things. So I had to explain, going to resource fairs, going to events, and letting people know that this is available, interacting right there in person, and seeing someone whose life has been transformed by something that isn't religious, that isn't even.
Well, let me tell you my conversation with Placer County.
Sort of, woo-woo, spiritual, all the ways that you could label.
I emailed back with
I'm hearing another conversation very clearly.
Yeah, excuse me. It's Christine again. Can we ask you guys to mute your phones? We're hearing another conversation.
Yeah, hold on a second. I'm just going to get out of here.
Okay.
There we go. That's the one.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to be part of that. I was talking with actually a Marine, always a Marine, and just was asking about what programs have been effective among the veterans that he knows. And we started joking about it. I said, I know that there are a lot of people who would like to help veterans. Ken just joined the call, so I'm going to turn it over to him in a minute. But what approach have you seen as being effective? Because I know there are a lot of people who want to help, but very honestly, if you have a very ethereal-looking woman in flowing purple clothes come in and put on New Age music and put out crystals and ring some gongs. And he started laughing. He said, yeah, the Marines will run in the opposite direction. So to be able to present something without a religious or spiritual context or any context, something that's just about a human being, to me has incredible promise and can actually reach people who might not be open if it were framed in another way. And not that this is any kind of bait and switch. This is just what it is, and it's in a language that everyone can understand. So I find it very accessible and very powerful. So Ken is on the call now, one of our founders, and I'd love for him.
Good morning, everyone.
There he is. I'd love for him to tell his story briefly, and then we can open for questions and answers, or maybe I can talk a little more about the organization itself. But to hear his story is the essence of what we're doing.
Yeah, this is Christine. Let's go for about 10 minutes, and then we'll go for questions after that.
Okay.
Sounds good. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Christine. Hi, Gail.
Hey, Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Thanks for having me on the call this morning. My name's Ken Lynch, and I'm honored to be here or be on this call with you guys this morning, so thank you. I'm a United States Navy veteran. I served from 1990 to 94. I served in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and I worked aboard an aircraft carrier as a flight deck director. I got out in 1994. At the time, I was married and had a successful Navy career. I was very excited about life, and I was going to be a physical therapist, and we had all kinds of dreams, and we're going to start a family and all this great stuff. 18 years later, April of 2012, I found myself homeless, broke, been fired from my job, and I was addicted and deeply depressed. And I found myself in rehab in West LA at a place called New Directions, wondering what happened. And so what happened in between for me was, it was basically unhealed trauma as I see it now. I didn't know that at the time. I thought everything was fine, that this was just the experience of life. And, it resulted, as I moved along in that journey, stress, was building. So I got out, we went to school, and was doing all these things, and
Ken? Hello?
And the story stopped suddenly.
Hello? We lost you, or we can't hear you. Well, let's...
I guess until Ken rejoins us, I can be a narrator of the story without telling the story itself. Ken's story is so powerful to me because it's one thing to know about the crisis cases or the immediate or soon surfacing issues with returning veterans. But I know we're also seeing Vietnam-era veterans realizing that it's okay to acknowledge traumas they experienced and to come forward with things that maybe were not socially acceptable upon their return. And to know that with Ken's story, 18 years after he was, separated from the military and leading this beautiful life, he crashed and burned. And
hello?
Yay, he's back.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. Cat dropped there. So, Gail, were you filling in my story there?
Just sort of as a narrator about the time lapse, that it's not always that someone displays a need for support immediately, that
Right.
your
Absolutely.
18 years, the Vietnam era veterans, how this is below the surface, but a very demanding, a need in demand of attention.
Right. So for me, my experience, I didn't realize anything. Kind of what Gail was pointing to, I didn't realize anything was wrong. But I can look back now and I can see, that the hypervigilance when I would walk in. I felt uncomfortable, but I didn't know that was any different than how everybody else was feeling. So I would walk into a room, for example, and I would assess. I would play out scenarios, and I would assess who the threats were in the room, and I'd play out scenarios in my mind. Imagine if they came at me or my friends or loved ones, what would I do? And so that my mind was on constant alert, constant danger. Everywhere I was going, I just never felt safe, secure. I never felt comfortable. And so what this resulted in was, stress would build up. And at first it would build up over, a period of a couple of months, and then I'd basically isolate myself and I'd go on a drinking binge. And this was early. This was like in the 90s. So, I may go a month without drinking, but then suddenly, one day I just go out and go on a drinking binge because I feel this tension and this stress building up inside of me. And so it made it very difficult in terms of just being happy, being comfortable, being at ease with life. That just wasn't happening for me. So I started feeling this urge to seek my happiness and relief somewhere else. And so I left my wife in 2000 and I was in Georgia at the time and came out to California and became a stockbroker in 2002. I got fortunate and got a good job with a really good company. I didn't have any experience with that. All my experience before was blue collar, basically. And I broke into this industry. I was 32 at the time, and I was like, okay, this is it. This is my chance, for success and relief and happiness. I'm going to go after this. And so I went after it full bore, became a manager of stockbrokers. It culminated in me being in New York City managing 35 other stockbrokers. And so I was very, very determined. However, there were some things underlying that weren't being dealt with. There were things internal. I was seeking my happiness outside of myself. My success or my feeling of worth was outside of myself. And so when those things started, for instance, I lost my job in 2008 because of the market crash. So when that happened, I felt really terrible about me. That meant something about me, because that was where my worth was. That's where the center of my life was in my job and the people that I knew at my job. And now all that was gone. I went from New York City to Portland, Oregon, and started back over there. But in the meantime, I'm drinking more and more, and it's starting to, it's basically a daily thing now with my drinking. And this is the 2008 time frame, 2008, 2009. And I decided to start my own business, and that ended up selling after a year. And by that time, I didn't know it at the time, but I can see now I slipped deeply into depression and felt like I was a complete failure. And so I was drinking by myself and drinking pretty heavily at this point, maybe a couple of bottles of wine a day or, 12-pack or half a case of beer or whatever. So it was pretty heavy. And that just wasn't working anymore for me. So I needed to seek my relief, or I felt this sense that I needed to go like some adventure. I was bored with my experience of life, that this was my future, and it just was not. I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't fulfilled. So I started to seek my adventure in darkness. I intentionally went into the dark places of the world and started hanging out at strip clubs and hanging out with shady people, and eventually my intention was to meet some people so I could start experimenting with drugs, which I hadn't done for the most part since I was a teenager. So that eventually happened, and I started using crystal meth in about a year and a half, and that was when I was 41, so that was 2011, 2012 time frame. So that destroyed my life very quickly. I ended up losing my place and destroying my relationships with my family, and wrecked my car, and lost I had gotten another good job after my business had failed. I became an operations manager for the largest financial firm in Oregon, and I got fired from that job because I wasn't showing up on time, which is kind of important, when you're in the stock market. So I ended up getting fired from that job and had nowhere to turn until I decided, I had kept this somehow secret from my friends, my long-distance friends. So I reached out to them and said I did the scariest thing I've ever done in my life for me up to that point, which was to ask for help and to admit, to confess what I had been up to, what had happened in my life. And so those were very difficult conversations, but what happened there was my friends rallied around me and they said, "You're a veteran, Ken," and I hadn't really thought about that in years. When I got out of the military, I just ran in the other direction. I was running for my freedom, and I'm going to go make the most of my life, and I just really never looked back to being a veteran, the fact that I had all these services that might be available to me. So my friend said, "Ken, you're a veteran. Why don't you look into this?" And then another friend said, "There's a great program for veterans here in West LA. Should come down. I'll pick you up at the airport to take you over." And so they did all that. They bought my plane ticket, and I flew down April of 2012 and was in that rehab there in at New Directions in West LA. And that began a journey for me where I turned my focus from the outside to the inside. And basically started asking myself some questions like, how did this happen? How can I make sure it never happens again? What's wrong with me? So I turned that focus within and started looking into my past. And my mom told me, "Ken, you need to look at what happened to you when you were 10. I had blocked out in my mind. And there were several things that I had blocked out in my mind. And, I was basically raped in an alley by a man who stole my bike, and I went after my bike, and he pulled me into somebody's backyard, and he raped me. And I had blocked that out of my mind and never really dealt with it. And then when I was in the military, I experienced military sexual trauma from a corpsman. I had completely forgotten about that. I was actually in West LA on the VA campus, sitting in a room and saw all these pamphlets about military sexual trauma and felt compassion for the victims and wondered how that could happen. 15 minutes later, I'm in a room, and this lady's going through a checklist of questions and asked me if I ever experienced military sexual trauma. I said no initially, and then it hit me like a 2x4 across the forehead that I had. And I said, "No, actually, I'm sorry, I have." And so for those memories to start coming back up was a little disorienting at first. But I had two things in place. I had therapists. There were people that were willing to help me, and then I had developed this mindfulness practice. So in this journey of turning within, I started seeking answers. How can I heal my past traumas? And healing wasn't a part of my vocabulary at the time. It wasn't something that I thought I needed. I can see that is what I needed now. But I just wanted relief. I wanted to have a good life. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to have good relationships. I wanted to, my family to, I wanted to experience love and all these things again. So there were some people that came along that guided me in developing a mindfulness practice. So I started waking up at 4:30 in the morning and meditating. And within a few weeks, about a month of doing that, I started having experiences of feeling compassion for myself, which was totally foreign to me. Compassion for other people, yes. Compassion for myself, no. I was very hard and rigid with myself, very judgmental with myself, and I felt that that's what kept me propelling me towards success. So to have that experience of compassion, wasn't like I was going after compassion. It just happened as kind of like a byproduct of this practice, meditation of mindfulness. And when that happened, I knew that was, and so I was really sold on this practice of mindfulness. And so I started sharing it with other people and so on, and it just kept building. It's a daily practice for me, and so, over time it just got better and better in my life. And I started to want to share it with other people, and eventually that led me to meeting some fantastic people. Started Operation Mindful Warrior with me. There's 3 other co-founders besides myself. And then, met Gail like a month and a half ago or so, and it's just, I have so much respect and admiration for Gail, and so grateful that we met, and she's a part of Operation Mindful Warrior as the executive director, and just so many great things are happening. So thank you. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you for sharing. Gail, I'm going to turn it back to you, and I guess if you have anything to add to that, and Ken, as always, thank you for sharing. Every time I meet you, I learn more about you and your journey. So thank you. And then we can open it up for questions for a little while.
Yeah. So,
is it open for questions?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Linda Broughton. I'm the Employment Relationship Manager over at the Salvation Army Haven's Veterans Employment Services Program. And first, I would like to say thank you so much, Gail and Ken, for what you shared with us today. Your approach sounds very interesting. I heard earlier, Gail, I think I heard that you said you might welcome an opportunity to come and meet with various agencies, if we could get some veterans together where you could do a workshop, something of that nature. Did I hear you correctly?
Yes. That instead of having veterans come to our location, because we're still fairly mobile, we're very happy to come and work directly with the veterans, and then also with their service providers, so they have the common ground to stand on to continue working together in their way. So,
and where are you? I know what I heard was you currently don't have an office. You're mobile. Are you in Los Angeles area?
yes.
Terrific.
So
and
this is our hub, and then we go from San Diego up to tonight we're in Ventura.
mm-hmm.
So that's especially if people can cover transportation costs, we'll go easily within that range and further if transportation is covered. And we're focusing eventually to go nationwide, but we want to really perfect what we have, really
Sure.
show its effectiveness in programs locally,
Sure.
work out any bugs that we find in our systems, really maintain the integrity and not get so far ahead of ourselves that then we collapse. So definitely California, mostly Southern California at this point.
This is Ken. I'm sorry, what was your name?
I'm sorry. Hi, Ken. My name is Linda Broughton. I'm over at the Salvation Army Haven Veterans Employment Services Program, and we now have 2 locations servicing veterans and 8 career development specialists, one on the West LA VA campus and one in we have a new San Fernando Valley service location.
Yes.
Okay, great. Linda, do you know John Lambert, I think his name is, at the Haven?
John, yes, I do know John. Yes, he's here on the West LA VA campus in a different program. Yes, I do know him.
Okay. I actually came out there and spoke to his veterans. It was probably a couple of months ago. There was a lot of interest. We just haven't been able to make that connection on what to do next. But I just wanted to share that with you, that I had been out there to the Haven. And I don't know if Gail mentioned as well, we also have a program for caregivers. So we have a couple of workshops for veterans that are, one's a 6-week workshop, and then we have a 10-week workshop. That's kind of our trademark workshop for veterans. And then we also have, for caregivers, we have a 6-hour, it could be one day, it could be over 6 weeks, 1 hour a week, bringing mindfulness into their lives, and also into their profession, into their interaction with veterans. So we have a couple. Anyway, so we have that available as well. I didn't know if Gail had mentioned that.
Yeah.
And if after the call, are we going to be able to get your contact information so that we could further discuss opportunities together?
Yes. Yes. We actually have a brand new phone line dedicated to the business rather than the separate numbers of each of the founders.
Okay.
And myself. So all of that we can make available.
Gail, could you tell us that number now? Do you have it on you?
Yes. It's
Okay, we're ready.
okay. Ready?
Yes.
818-616-2931.
Thank you.
Sure. And the email, I think, is on one of the slides, Christine, because that's our brochure.
It is. Is it on the first page? Yes. Can we go back one slide, please? There we go, on the bottom left. Were there any other questions? I just had one. You said the 6 or 10-week workshops for the veterans. How long are each of those sessions?
The 6-week workshop is a basic introduction to mindfulness curriculum. It's 1 hour per session, so it'll be done over 6 weeks, 1 hour per session. And then the 10-week is 1.5 hours per session, so it's a total of 15 hours over 10 weeks.
Hey, Gail.
Mm-hmm.
This is Nancy Sumner, Colonel Retired. Hey, I really, Ken, thank you for the share of your story. It just brought back memories of issues with the military troops as they're taking the training for MST and the sexual assault and trauma, and all of a sudden it triggers it, and all of a sudden they never really thought about it, and then now a whole can of worms is opened up. So right. I think the awareness is, what you guys are doing is great. But I had a question. Did you work with Stephanie Stone to see if you guys could do something at Patriot Hall?
Yeah, I started speaking with her. It was in the middle of a lot of events, so this is a visit. Yeah, because they're working on their calendar for the year, and do you guys have this broken out separate just for women, or is it mostly men and women? At this point, it's men and women, but especially with my orientation of the women and the children also. Right. I'm looking for some separate events just for comfort and safety. Yeah, you may want to reapproach that because they're working on the calendar, and I didn't get a chance to really talk with you the other night that much, but I'm just impressed with this, and I really hope that this, takes off. I just want to say thank you for what you guys are doing.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, what I wanted to share after what Ken shared was, this is what's so powerful to me, is the honesty and bravery and vulnerability of this team, just putting the stories out, sharing very deeply from their heart and their experiences, and the insistence on creating a safe space for that to happen for whomever is there, veteran, non-veteran. The other night we hosted a preview VIP screening of Korengal, which is the sequel to Restrepo, and the room was absolutely full, and the film is very powerful. I would encourage people to see it. It's released in Los Angeles June 13th, and it's an amazing film. It's very intimate in terms of a soldier's experience of war, not as a Hollywood movie. This is a documentary, but very, very personal. And what happened afterwards, there was a panel discussion, question and answer. And usually I've seen with those that, when you have a screening or some kind of event and then the break with refreshments, a lot of people will leave. People stayed. We opened the film. Ken guided everyone through a mindfulness practice so that everyone could be really present for the film and appreciate its full effect. People stayed, and the nature of the panel and the questions and answers, it was so deep because people felt safe, that they were understood, they would be heard. No one was allowed to get too self-indulgent with whatever agenda they had. That was, brought to a close quickly, and this was really about the experience of an individual, regardless of what they had experienced in the past. And that's what's been such a joy for me to be part of, is that this is where the individual is addressed so personally in a safe environment with people who understand and care and are there for them. And I've seen it in action. And so I'm so eager to make this available to as many people as possible, bridge the gap with the civilian population as well, so there's real understanding, and everyone can have a bit of the same experience of trauma and their humanity in a safe environment.
Gail, I see we have a couple questions, and two of them are devoted to is there anything in Northern California for you guys? So let's see. And then it was also based into, is the mindfulness similar to the VA in San Diego program? I don't know exactly what that is, so I don't know if you know as well. But I guess, are you willing to go north? Is that a transportation cost as well, or would you like me to take it's Kate and Dottie, take their information and have you guys contact or connect directly afterwards? Would that be easiest?
Sure. We're willing to go. Right now we're focused in California or Southern California, but we're willing to go to Northern California for sure. It would just be a matter of covering costs.
Okay.
Gail, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's basically what we're looking at, especially if it's around the time of the Calvet Women's Conference. We could
combine, yeah.
Yeah, piggyback on that, to start traveling north early and hit a lot of points along the way, overshoot and come back.
Okay, well, let me do this. I'm going to put my email on the chat, and I'll say it out loud. It's Christine with a K, Kristine, at NVF, that's Nancy Victor Frank.org. And I'm happy if you'd like to have Gail and Ken's information directly, I will happy to email that to you. And then you guys can make sure you connect for the going up north, and then if you can discuss if it's the same as the other program. With that, because we're running towards the end of our call, we have about a little less than 10 minutes left. Also, if anyone has any questions that they want, well, you have their email right there. You can email them directly. So that's omwvet@gmail.com. We have Ken and Gail, who are absolutely lovely individuals, and we thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
I just want to go to the next slide, please. one more as well. Right there, thank you. This is just a little, I did a little research on who's doing what for suicide, and it's just briefly, we're not going to talk about this very much. I just wanted to show you that the American Foundation of Suicide is also very interested in what the veteran community is doing, so they got together for a conference. I have the links for all of this at the end, so don't feel compelled to write anything down. And then right in the second to last bullet, they talk about the RAND Center for Research. And if you can go to the next slide, please. I wasn't aware that the state of California had a proposition that was specifically made to identify mental health services in addition specifically about suicide. So that was the Proposition 31, which led to 2 studies done by RAND. You can go to the next one. This isn't veteran specific, but the way I look at stuff, sometimes we don't feel comfortable going into the veteran world for support. So if we know what's available in the community, having another avenue to find support or help for what we need, this is why I brought this up. This one, Know the Signs, and this is out of the study about how people felt more comfortable and yes, these slides will be available, to discuss their feelings or this one is actually people who are educated about the signs of suicide are more able to help those in need. So this is how they identified that. And the next slide, this is if you were suicidal, how do you feel more comfortable seeking help? So it's from face-to-face to a crisis line. So this is what the study found for those in California. And since we have an enormous populations of veterans here, it's great to know what the state has discovered and researched for us. And then the last slide, please. Another organization, just on a side note, I follow Stop Soldier Suicide on Facebook. It talks a lot about information that's going on in the community, legislation, news stories. They've actually even, at one point, if somebody was missing, they send out an announcement to look for them. So it's just another avenue or information for you guys to have in your pockets. The next slide is just the references. And finally, at the end, one more, please. This is the flags that IVA set up in front of the Capitol, recognizing the 22 suicides a day that we have. So just a somber, I guess, closing, but also acknowledgement that, we're all here on the call and we're all taking the effort to, learn more about helping our fellow veterans and those that are also suicidal, and finding great organizations and connections in the community that can, help us get through this time. So with that, does anybody have any questions, comments, need anything else from the call? You can either say it over the phone or you can type it in.
Thank you. This has been really informational.
Oh, you're very welcome. As always, they're always the first Monday of the month. From the actual presentation is from 10 to 11. We open the line at 9:30, as some of us knows, just to network, find out who's out there, who's doing what. So if you come in before 10 and you hear people talking, you're on the right line. Very open to. I totally forgot. If the lovely ladies from Calvet would take a couple minutes and talk about the upcoming conference, that would be awesome.
All right. Hi, everyone. This is Jillian from Calvet. I'm substituting for Deputy Secretary Lindsay Sims. And for our conference, it's August 24th and 25th. That's a Sunday and a Monday. The registration is now open. It's on our website. Just go to calvet.ca.gov, go to Women's Programs, then to the conference page, and that's available now. It's $45 per person. Again, it's for 2 days. That's a Sunday and a Monday. And one last thing, we still have open award submissions, and we're taking those until this Thursday, June 5th. So if you have any women veterans that are impacting your communities pretty significantly, please consider putting them up for an award. There are three kinds. There's the Women Veteran of the Year, the Lifetime Achievement for a Women Veteran, and the last one is for a non-vet woman who is a volunteer of the year. So again, that's also on our webpage under Women Programs on calvet.ca.gov. That's all I have, Christine. Thanks.
Thank
I'm
you.
so sorry. Do you know if there's any discount with the hotel, or has that been a topic yet?
So we're still working on that with the hotel. It's the Grand Sheraton, and we'll let you know on our Facebook and on our webpage once that's available. But yeah, as of right now, there should be one. We're still working on it though.
Okay, and then do you have who's the speakers yet for the conference, or is that not?
No, not yet. We're
Okay.
still working on the agenda. Yeah.
Perfect. And thank you for that. I'm so sorry, I almost forgot because that's so important. And you said the slides will be available on the website?
Yes, the slides should be available on the websites. We're still working with our IT department, but they should be at the latest next month. We're working on it still, though.
Okay. And I'm happy to send them out. If anybody would just like to email me directly, I'll just send them out to you real quick. Again, it's Christine with a K at nvf.org. Again, thank you very much to our guest speakers. We absolutely love having them from Operation Mindful Warrior. And does anybody else have any closing remarks? We have about 2 minutes.
Christine, I just wanted to, so this is Ken with Operation Mindful Warrior. Did Gail mention mindfulness, and you were talking about the 22 veteran suicides a day? Did she mention mindfulness and how it is an intervention, therapeutic intervention that directly addresses those gaps in mental health services?
On a webinar.
No, but if you can do it in 60 seconds, you have the floor.
Okay. I'm just going to read this. So mindfulness is a therapeutic intervention that directly addresses the gaps in mental health services that expose veterans to suicide. Research findings show that mindfulness can help with symptoms related to trauma and depression. Mindfulness changes your relationship to unwanted thoughts, feelings, and body sensations, so you no longer need to react to them in an automatic way, but rather skillfully respond to them with acceptance and compassion. So there's research, there's we have a paper here, I think it's like 15 pages long of research about how mindfulness disrupts those patterns of thinking that lead down that path to suicide, and bring those folks who may have made that or taken that tragic step of taking their own life down at a more healthy wellness path. And we can share that with folks if they're interested as well, that research.
Well, we would love that. Well, again, thank you. And with that, it's 11 o'clock, so thank you all for attending, and I will talk to you in July.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Christine.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Right.
Ken. Thanks, Gail.
You're welcome, everyone. Bye. Thank you.